Hello guys, welcome to my channel. The less is more. So today we will discuss an editorial from the Indian Express. The title of the editorial is The Last 3 Years. Actually guys, it is about COVID-19 pandemic and its repercussions and the lessons that we have learned from these last 3 years. So let's start an editorial itself. So COVID is no more an emergency. Recently the World Health Organization has declared that the COVID is no more an emergency, but it has taught world importance of remaining alert to new pathogens. So it has taught us what? Importance of remaining alert to new pathogens. Last week, the WHO declared that COVID-19 pandemic is no longer a global emergency. The announcement was expected. In March and April, case count spiked in parts of Europe and Asia, including India. But like most outbreaks last year, except the ones in China, the latest surge shone a light on the pathogen's declining virulence. So, like most outbreaks that happened during the last year, except the one in China, has shown what? That there is a decline of virulence in pathogens. Like it is not becoming too much virulent. Okay. Though the virus still kills, the global death rate has come down drastically from 1 lakh a week at the peak of the pandemic in January 2021 to less than 4,000 in early May. So the global death rate has also declined from 1 lakh per week to 4,000 per week. Okay. COVID infection have plunged by more than 90%. Infections plunged by 90% in the last 5 months, and the healthcare systems are no longer stressed. The possibility of damaging new variant emerging is also remote. So the possibility of damaging new variant that are emerging right now is also remote or is also less. However, given the past unpredictability of the virus, medical authorities worldwide cannot afford to slacken on surveillance efforts such as genome tracing. Okay. So medical authorities cannot slacken on surveillance efforts, like they cannot be less alert or taking precautionary measures due to genome sequencing and genome tracing. The focus should now be on the long-term management of infections, especially among the aged and those with weak immune system. So the focus should be on what? The long-term management of infections, especially among the aged people and those who are with weak immune systems. Before COVID, the Ebola virus and coronavirus that caused the severe acute respiratory syndrome, SARS, and Middle East respiratory syndrome, MERS, triggered worrying epidemics. Before COVID, there were such viruses like Ebola and coronaviruses that cause what? SARS and MERS, means severe acute respiratory syndrome, and Middle East respiratory syndrome, which triggered worrying epidemics. But the reach of these pathogens was limited compared to the SARS-CoV-2, which has taken nearly 7 million lives. So the reach of these pathogens, that is Ebola virus and coronavirus, was limited compared to SARS-CoV-2, right? Because it has taken 7 million lives. When the WHO declared COVID a pandemic in March 2020, WHO declared COVID a pandemic in March 2020. Most experts believe that humanity was in for a long haul. So most experts believe that there is a crisis, humanitarian crisis in the world, and it was in for a long haul. Scientists in several parts of the world, however, exceeded the expectation of even the most die-hard optimist by producing vaccine in less than a year. But the scientist community in several parts of the world exceeded the expectation of even the most die-hard optimist by producing vaccine in less than a year. So they have exceeded the expectations of some die-hard optimist. Okay, by producing a vaccine in less than a year. The virus, though, continued to take a toll and expose the healthcare deficits of several countries, including India. Virus continued to take a toll and expose the healthcare system of developing and developed countries. The most important lesson from those difficult days is that there is no alternative to investing in robust healthcare system. What lessons we have learned? The first one is there is no alternative to investing in robust healthcare systems. This holds even for several developed countries, including the US, where poor communities reportedly bore the brunt of COVID ravages. Okay, even in US, some poor communities also affected with COVID's ravages. The jury is out on what caused the pandemic. Jury is out on what caused the pandemic. However, the public health crisis has led to a long overdue conversation on zoonotic diseases. Public health crisis led to what? The long overdue conversation on zoonotic diseases. Earlier, this conversation on zoonotic diseases was overdue, right? But after this pandemic, the focus of the whole world come to the zoonotic diseases. Zoonotic diseases means caused by virus that cross over to humans from animals. Changes in land use patterns mean that wild animals live closer to human habitats, and conditions are ripe for zoonotic events. So there is a change in land using patterns, right? Which mean what? That wild animals live closer to human habitat and conditions are ripe for zoonotic events. Ripe means very common for zoonotic events. Experts believe that warming global temperature will result in the dispersal of wildlife and increase the chances of cross-species various virus transmission. So changes in land use pattern. Okay. Then warming global temperature. This is second cause, which result in dispersal of wildlife and increase the chances of cross-species virus transmission. COVID has taught the world the importance of remaining on high alert to the emergence of new pathogens. So COVID has taught what? The importance of remaining on high alert to the emergence of new pathogens. The last 3 years have tested the acumen of scientists and policymakers. Last 3 years had tested what? The acumen of scientists and policymakers. Okay. So the lesson should not be lost. So author is saying that we should not forget these lessons, right? So what has been represented in this editorial is that COVID has been declared as a no more an emergency. Okay, why? Because there is decline in infections, decline in global death rates, and the emerging variant are also not virulent. Okay, that is why the COVID is no more an emergency. But given the past unpredictability, the medical authorities cannot be sleeping on surveillance efforts like genome tracing. And right now the way forward should be, or the focus should be, on long term management. Okay, and what lessons we have learned in this COVID pandemic is that before before COVID there were such kind of viruses like Ebola virus and coronavirus, but which might have turned in just epidemic, not pandemic. But this SARS-CoV-2 has taken a toll, right, and has taken almost 7 million lives, right. So though the vaccine has been developed in a very less time, that means less than a year, okay, but there are some lessons that should be learned and not to be forgotten. Okay, the first is there is no alternative to investing in robust healthcare system. Okay, and it has also come to the it has led to the long due conversation on zoonotic diseases, right. So right now the One Health approach is also getting acknowledged by various countries. And this zoonotic, what are the reasons that these zoonotic diseases are increasing? Because changes in land use pattern and warming global temperature, right. This lead to what? Wild animals live near the human habitat, okay, and this become a ripe for zoonotic events. So the another lesson that the world community has to learn is remaining on high alert to the emergence of new pathogens. And last 3 years tested what? Acumen of scientists and policymakers, right. So this was for today. Okay guys, so thank you so much. Bye bye, signing off for the day.